Hello, everyone. I'm James Milan. Welcome to this week's Town Manager Update with our Town Manager, Adam Chapdelaine, the first of the new year in 2021. And first of all, I don't know, Happy New Year, I
Yeah,
guess, right?
happy New Year. Happy New Year. We gotta
It is
stay
a
positive.
Happy New Year. There is reason for cautious optimism that things are going to get better over the course of the coming months. So let us cling to that.
Yes.
Um, I want, of course, to ask you, and I will defer until later, about the extraordinary events that happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday. But we should and will start where we always do, and that is with COVID numbers locally. Yeah, much to be said, and for our audience to learn. So let me open the floor for you.
So thank you, James. I will echo you saying Happy New Year. I was very happy to say it the first few days of the month. It got a little tougher over the past few days, but you're right. There is much reason for optimism. So to talk about the issue of the pandemic in Arlington, I guess I would start by saying we are definitely still in the midst of a pretty significant surge. I think you'd probably recall that it was towards the end of November, early December that I talked about the pace we were on, and I said if we kept that pace, we would probably see 300 cases in December and maybe the same in January, thereby doubling the current case count at the time. Unfortunately, we saw over 400 cases in Arlington in December. So I'm not very happy that that we surpassed even what maybe at the time seemed like bold predictions for how serious it could become. So the trends are not looking good. Large numbers, double-digit numbers of cases are coming in to the Board of Health staff every day, and that's putting a lot of pressure on them from a contact tracing point of view. At the same time as they're trying to plan the rollout of vaccinations across the community. So I think I'm going to reiterate this throughout, but it is out there, it is spreading, and as the governor said earlier this week, it's highly likely that the variant strain of the virus is present in Massachusetts, which has been shown to be more contagious than sort of the base virus. And I have no idea. No one knows if it's in Arlington, but we are definitely in a time to be vigilant, to adhere to all practices and protocols that have been advised to try to keep yourself and your family members safe from this virus. Moving from that to what I hope is brighter news, we will start vaccinating people in Arlington as of next week. Those people in this case are first responders, firefighters, police officers, and dispatchers. And we're part of a 4-town collaborative with Arlington as the lead, with Lexington, Belmont, and Watertown to vaccinate all of their first responders. This is the first opportunity that the state's Department of Public Health has given to local boards of health to provide vaccine to members of their population. So I think we're excited. We're excited and ready to start this process. I think I could probably speak for everybody that we want all of this to happen faster. We want to get people vaccinated and we want to get back to something resembling a normal life. But next week is the official start for us, and we're excited about that. And we're so lucky to have the team we have between Christine Barjono and Natasha Waden. They're crackerjacks at this. And I know specifically Christine is really running herd on this vaccination program, and it's something she's very good at. She's trained at for really her whole career, and we're lucky to have her at the helm for that. Beyond that, there's a lot of questions about vaccinations. We don't yet have a lot of answers. We know who's included in the 3 phases for vaccination, and we're still in phase 1. We don't yet know what role the state will ask us to play as a local government in the distribution of those vaccines. We stand ready and willing to play as large a role as they envision for us, but we're going to get through this first phase with providing vaccine to the first responders. And as more information becomes available from the state, again, we stand ready to be part of that or cooperate with the state if they choose to utilize other vaccine distributors or providers to give the vaccine to people living in the community. I guess to echo what I said earlier, this is still a time to stay vigilant where we're not out of the woods. We need to wear masks. I think we need to really just stay with those who live in our immediate household. And, the next month or 2 or a little bit more is still going to be pretty challenging. But, we're every time we talk, we're going to be 1 week deeper into getting through this with more vaccine rolling out and hopefully seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. I guess the final thing about the pandemic I'd mention is, I know back in December, we partnered with Boston, Newton, and several other communities as part of a regional rollback, which for Arlington was primarily, the primary impact was the complete closure of gyms and fitness studios. Shortly after that, the governor implemented a rollback that was not quite as severe, but put, in basic terms, a 25% occupancy cap on most business uses, including gyms and fitness studios. And our rollback expired earlier this week, really at the end of the business day on Tuesday. And we had a lot of talk as a leadership team, as a COVID leadership team, and decided that ultimately, because so few other communities followed our lead and Boston's lead in the regional rollback, that we weren't achieving the public health outcomes that we were hoping to achieve, because people were able to cross really any border except into Somerville and access gyms or fitness studios. And so we sort of had this double jeopardy where we weren't achieving the public health benefits that we were hoping to achieve and creating economic hardship for Arlington businesses in an inequitable fashion. So based on that, I mean, admittedly, we didn't love it. I mean, we'd prefer to be in a stricter situation, but we decided to, I guess what we're calling, roll up to the governor's restrictions, which is that 25% occupancy cap. So the governor's cap actually expires, I believe, on Sunday. So I think there's hopefully more to come from him about an extension of that. At least that's what we're hoping for, but we don't know that yet. And we may learn later today or later this week about where he stands on that.
All right, thank you. I did want to follow up on one thing, or ask you about one thing in particular, and that is, I had a chance before we spoke to kind of look through the numbers here again locally around cases and the rise thereof. You've mentioned the surge. You mentioned the fact that it has exceeded, unfortunately, your own prognostications from a while back. I chose the beginning of December to look at, and one thing I noticed is that the rise in cases here in town is 70% over that period of time, from the mid 640s to now 1,073 as of yesterday. 70%. And then I looked at the oldest population. I've asked you about this kind of thing before. That being people 70 and over. And there, the rise in cases was very dramatically lower. And that is, it's around 20%. And that's a great testament, of course, to how well our local facilities are keeping people safe. But it also made me wonder, I know that older people are, and for obvious reasons, are, in one of the next tiers to be to receive the vaccine. I'm wondering, given the fact that the situation here in Arlington is slightly brighter, let's say, for the oldest of our residents than for the younger populations, whether that would go into the calculus as to the delivery of vaccines to that tier or not.
So that is a great question. And I would say today we have, I guess I would be comfortable saying, zero discretion in who we administer vaccine to. The state is keeping very, very tight tabs on who you give the vaccine to, and giving the vaccine to a party that is not qualified or eligible in their definition of the phases could result in your right to distribute vaccine being revoked. And just to give it an example that's not exactly pertinent to the situation you're describing, but helps illustrate it, there's been questions like, all right, so you have 10 doses in a vial, and you set up a clinic and you expect 10 firefighters to arrive, but only 8 show up. Can you say, hey, there's DPW staff across the street working on a project, bring them over and give them the vaccine? And the answer right now is no. Because we have to document in this database that the state has created exactly who has been administered the vaccine. And again, if you break the criteria, you risk revocation of that right. So right now, we're not given that discretion. There isn't the flexibility in deciding that based on our local circumstances, we can distribute the vaccine in a different manner. Now that could change, right? As availability changes and as things change, maybe they will decide to give us a little more discretion. But yeah, right now we don't locally have that discretion.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Um, so let me just solicit your thoughts on what happened yesterday at the U.S. Capitol. I don't think I need to rehash it for our audience. I'm sure everybody's very familiar with the fact that there was a demonstration of Trump supporters that then, at the end of which they proceeded to the Capitol, and I guess, for want of a better term, they invaded the Capitol building, and all of what came after that. So you are, our local highest profile public official, and I can't not ask you for your thoughts on what you observed and what comes from here.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, as I'm sure we all do, I have many thoughts, but I'll try to keep them focused in response to this question. Um, I, I mean, I think to lead without getting overly partisan or political, that it's upsetting as an American to see uh, a group of insurrectionists storm the Capitol at the direction of the current president of the United States. Right? It's nothing I don't think either you or I have seen in our lifetime, and I'm not sure that it's actually happened in the history of this country. Um, so it's a very upsetting day, and I have said to my friends, it's the darkest day in American history that I've lived through. Probably are darker days in American history, but not that I've seen. But moving beyond that, especially given my role, I start to think about things very practically. And the matter yesterday that I just can't stop thinking about is the immense failure of the Capitol Police to prevent what happened yesterday from happening. And there was either or both, a major failing in both planning and implementation. How they could not have been ready for that to happen is unfathomable to me. I think I can say without hyperbole, I knew this was going to happen 4 years ago. And we all certainly knew this was going to happen 2 weeks ago, and a week ago, and 2 days ago. We knew this or something like this was going to happen. And to not have both forces on hand and on standby ready to quell this disturbance and this insurrection is just inexcusable. So there's either that planning failing, or the fact that those officers who were there in some instances seemed to aid and abet the insurrection, and that's incredibly upsetting. So on Twitter, which I guess is sort of a cross between my own personal and professional views, I've been, it's a little outlet that I have. I've been saying, there needs to be an immediate investigation launched by the Capitol Police Board and both the House and Senate Appropriations Committee, which are vested with oversight of the Capitol Police, into what happened. And they need to be ready to prevent it from happening again. I would imagine that the people who did what they did yesterday are only emboldened by how easily they were able to breach the Capitol. And I don't mean to be a catastrophize this, but I could imagine they'll try to do it again. And the Capitol Police and whatever other forces are necessary need to be ready to quell it. I mean, I'm not suggesting mass uses of force, but such an insurrection needs to be stopped. More locally, I can imagine some people are thinking about what's the town of Arlington and the Arlington Police Department doing to make sure that Arlington's safe should unrest like that spread throughout the country. And I can say that I've already spoken to the chief of police. I can't speak for her, but I know she shares many of the concerns I just expressed about what happened yesterday. And she's already beginning to think about contingency planning for how we would keep Arlingtonians safe if unrest of the nature we saw yesterday came to Arlington. So I guess to try to wrap it up, an incredibly disturbing day. I hope it is the final convulsions of something and not new life being breathed into something far worse. But as you started, I'll try to take more hope out of the broader picture of the nation, and that we perhaps can be coming together on a better path. But hard to be solely optimistic after what we saw yesterday.
Yeah. Well, within the first 24 hours after those events, there are some signs, some evidence that hopefully your idea about this being final convulsions is the case in terms of the number of voices across the political spectrum that have condemned, what happened and the way that it happened, and frankly, President Trump's role in that. So hopefully that may be an encouraging sign in that way. I also just wanted to note, as you so eloquently described, the failings of the Capitol Police Force yesterday, the fact that voices of people and populations of color have been raised to point out that a different makeup of the force that assaulted the Capitol. In other words, a more diverse group probably would never have breached so easily.
Absolutely.
Those.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah. So, as you say, a dark day. Hopefully, again, it's a dark start to the year in a lot of ways, in that we are still completely dominated, as this conversation has been, by COVID, and also by craziness in Washington, D.C. It seems that it's been going on for a very long time. Let us sincerely hope that better days are ahead. As we started this conversation, so shall it be, we hope. All right. Thank you very much again for your time, Adam. We always appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you again next week. Have a good one.
You too.
Hope your energy hope you can keep up your energy and get some rest in the break just before the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I am James Milan. I have been speaking to Adam Chapdelaine, our town manager, as part of a weekly town managers update. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.